We're in Washington, D.C. Looks like Silicon Valley, could be Silicon Valley. Shared workspace, part of it is Village Capital, a $15 million venture fund focusing on social investments. I'm here with Ross Baird, who is the founder and CEO of Village Capital. But Ross isn't necessarily the biggest fan of Silicon Valley. Ross, welcome to INNOVATE2016. So, Ross, what's gone wrong with Silicon Valley?
Yeah, first of all, great to be here. Excited to be on the show. I think Silicon Valley is the most creative, hardest working, most packed collection of talent in the world. And Silicon Valley can do wonderful things. I think the problem is there's billions of dollars concentrated in the hands of very few people who invest in people they know, solving problems they can understand. So most of the problems that Silicon Valley, as wonderful as is, are trying to solve are not actually relevant to the future of society. So when we think
Wow, so this is shocking, Ross. You mean Uber isn't solving world hunger?
Well, I mean, it's a piece of the puzzle, but the real problem that Uber is creating is you have a lot of people generating a lot of value in cars and they're not participating in the economic upside. So things like the on-demand economy, if we run it like Silicon Valley does, they increase income inequality. They don't level the playing field for workers.
I had George Packer on my show, my TechCrunch show, a few years ago. He wrote that famous New Yorker piece saying that all the stuff coming out of Silicon Valley is created by privileged 21-year-olds for other privileged 21-year-olds. Was he right then?
Yeah, I mean, people solve problems they can understand, and when 95% of startup investment goes to guys, and I mean, being a guy, nothing against guys, and when only 3% of startup investment goes to people of color, and when 78% of startup investment goes to 3 states, most people who are getting resources to solve problems haven't really experienced very many problems in their life.
But I've had Ben Jealous on my show. I know he's one of the limited partners in your fund. I mean, he's from Silicon Valley.
Yeah, I mean, but Ben spent half his life in West Baltimore and growing up. And I think Ben understands that it's not important for a lot of families in West Baltimore or Northeast DC or East Palo Alto. It's not important to get delivery on demand in 20 seconds. It is important to figure out how to have enough money this week to put food on the table.
Ross, is there something structurally wrong with Silicon Valley? Is it a cultural thing? Is it what we're drinking out there? Is it the kind of schools the entrepreneurs are going to? Can it be fixed, or do we need to go somewhere else?
So I think 2 things. I think in Silicon Valley, which again is the envy of the entrepreneurial world, and it should be, we do need to change who sits at the table and who makes decisions over resources. So if you have people who went to different schools, people have different lived experiences making decisions over funding, you're going to get different results. Also, I mean, the great problems in society the solutions may not necessarily be in Silicon Valley. So we have world hunger as a big problem. I would argue that Louisville or Minneapolis or St. Louis know more about growing and producing and shipping and distributing food than Silicon Valley does.
I know Steve Case is also an investor in your fund. Steve, of course, has gone out on the road. He has been very vocal in his critique of Silicon Valley. You think he's right to try to redistribute power and wealth in the innovation economy?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you look at whether it's Donald Trump or Bernie Sanders, I think most people in the political system feel like the deck's stacked against them. And I think most entrepreneurs across the country, we partnered with Steve Case on this Rise of the Rest bus tour, and most entrepreneurs don't have a hugely positive opinion of Silicon Valley because they think Silicon Valley doesn't have a great opinion of them. And I think there are really wonderful and inspiring people across the country building great businesses that if people who are investing in venture funds aren't looking at, they're missing out on big opportunities, and our society's missing out on huge chances for impact.
It's kind of interesting what you're saying, Russ, that in a funny way the political system is catching up to what you're trying to do. That the critique of the establishment politically is similar to the kind of critique of people like you of the technology establishment?
Yeah, I think most people in America today feel like there are a few people in the country who make decisions, and whether it's politics or whether it's startup investing, power is concentrated in the hands of a few people, and most people don't feel part of that club. And there are amazing things going on in politics across the country, and there are great mayors in cities across the country that are not part of the establishment, and there are amazing things going on in the startup world, but we are seeing a huge resentment from the average person because they don't feel like the people who are controlling power really care about or understand them.
I'm guessing you're not a big admirer of Donald Trump, then.
No, I mean, I think that...
And yet he's tapping into something that you feel strongly about.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Donald Trump is a mean racist who is not representing what is the best of America. But I do think that Donald Trump is tapping into most Americans feeling like the people who are making decisions don't really care about or have any affinity to them.
And the funny thing about both Trump and Sanders, who are tapping into it, this anger about the center, is they're not really talking technology, are they? They're not talking about Silicon Valley. They're not talking about innovation. They're not talking about the impact of technology on jobs or on inequality.
Yeah, I mean, I think that what is going wrong with Silicon Valley is a symptom of a larger problem in society, that we have lots of decision-making power concentrated in the hands of a few people. And so while Donald Trump and Bernie Sanders aren't talking about Uber exacerbating income inequality, what they are talking about is there are people over here who are making decisions behind closed doors, and you're not a part of it, and you're never going to be a part of it, and aren't you angry about that? And let's fix it. And I think that we see that same kind of thread running through the startup communities of Nashville and Richmond and Milwaukee, saying, well, Silicon Valley is never going to pay attention to us, so screw them. Let's build great businesses ourselves.
Okay, Ross, so let's have some solutions. We know your critique. What would you, from your point of view, like to come out of the 2016 election?
So I think, number one, the pathway to capital for entrepreneurs across America is not clear. I think the average... So community banks used to be the greatest source of capital for new businesses, which have created nearly 100% of net jobs in the last 20 years. It's collapsed in half. Whether it's loans, whether it's financial guarantees, I think funding that goes to businesses should move from large tax breaks to corporates to small seed capital for startups, for small businesses that are the majority of new businesses created in society. So I think rethinking how our society invests in businesses, having more geographically dispersed capital is really, really
And how's that going to happen?
So,
through government, through regulation?
So, I mean, you could do that today. The Small Business Association has $2.6 billion each year that is dedicated for venture funds. You could have right now it is just debt into certain types of venture funds. If you made a quick change to have that be into equity for venture funds and undercapitalized places, you could spawn a whole new wave of fund managers that replace what community banks used to do for people who are starting up ventures.
So why aren't the candidates talking about this? Even Sanders isn't, certainly not Hillary Clinton.
Yeah,
let alone Trump.
So the first three presidential debates, entrepreneurship is one of the greatest values we have in America. And the first three presidential debates, not a single candidate mentioned the word entrepreneur or startup. I mean, I think that there was the bipartisan passage of the Jobs Act in 2012, which did some good things, and we're making good progress, but we still need more progress on immigration. We still need more progress on flows of capital. We still need more progress on making regulation clearer in certain sectors for certain types of companies. And I don't think, I don't think Donald Trump has been a successful businessman. I don't think he understands what it's like to start his own business. Bernie Sanders, similarly, has never tried to start and run his own business. I don't think we have very many people running for office at the national level who understand actually what it takes to build a business.
Well, Ross Baird, this is a very counterintuitive, but I think intriguing position. I want to thank you, and I want to congratulate you on what you're achieving with Village Capital. Thank you so much for appearing on Innovate 2016.
Thanks a lot.